Prise de débat. The honourable member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to speak to Government Bill C-16. In its current form, Madam Speaker, I cannot support this bill for a number of reasons. Let me assure you, and assure all of my colleagues in this House, and yes, indeed, assure all Canadians, that I do not oppose this bill because of any hatred for, nor any fear of, nor any malice toward anyone who is dealing with questions of gender identity. Before I outline my concerns about the potential negative outcomes of Bill C-16, allow me to say clearly that I am supportive of any initiatives that will protect persons from hate speech. I am supportive of the need to guarantee equal rights. I also agree that there can be no tolerance for bullying or violence of any kind or for any reason. Parliamentarians and all Canadians have a duty to prevent bullying, hate speech, and violence or any such behavior. But, Madam Speaker, I am wary of the demands of any government-imposed value systems which will change fundamental definitions and principles of society. The imposition of fundamental value system changes of this magnitude must be viewed with some degree of skepticism. Too much is at stake for us to proceed without caution if we proceed at all. Madam Speaker, I am supportive of equal rights for all, but in my opinion, this bill goes far beyond equal rights into the territory of granting extra rights or special rights for some, and in the process of granting those extra rights for some, we automatically diminish and deny the legitimate time-honored rights of many others. As it relates to C-16, I have a number of concerns. Some of the concerns address immediate potential negative repercussions, while others relate to the potential for long-term effects and outcomes of the enactment of this bill. My concerns lie in 4 areas. I am concerned that this bill will cause fear for many Canadians, fear that they will not be able to even discuss public policy issues such as this one, on which they may disagree with the government-imposed agenda. I am concerned about the potential harm to innocent children and youth as a result of the possible invasion of their privacy. I'm concerned that terms gender identity and gender expression are very subjective terms, far too subjective to be used in the context of legal documents, particularly in the Canadian Human Rights Act or the Criminal Code of Canada. And finally, I am concerned that when government adopts dramatic changes to public policy as it relates to gender identity and sexuality, with minimal research or support, that the results could be harmful for all members of society, but especially for those we are actually trying to help, that is, transgender children or youth. Let me address these points in reverse order. Will this bill inadvertently harm those whom we are trying to help? There have been many eminent scholars, medical practitioners, psychologists, psychiatrists, professional organizations who have raised legitimate concerns about the current treatment of the transgendered person and are especially concerned about long-term negative effects of hormone treatment and reassignment surgery. The American College of Pediatricians urges educators and legislators to reject all policies that condition children to accept a life of chemical and surgical impersonation of the opposite sex. They point out that the biological medical dangers associated with the use of puberty-blocking hormones and the follow-up use of cross-sex hormonal medication, testosterone and estrogen, which are needed in late adolescence, these are known to be associated with dangerous health risks, including, but not limited to, high blood pressure, blood clots, stroke, and cancer. There's another sobering statistic, Madam Speaker, and that is the increased suicide rate. During my 10 years here in Parliament, possibly the one issue that has received most of my attention has been suicide prevention. Motion M388, dealing with internet predators, and Bill C-300, an act respecting a federal framework for suicide prevention, were private members' business initiatives which I tabled and worked diligently on for many years. The research is clear that the suicide rate for adults is 20 times higher for those who have used cross-sex hormones and undergone sex reassignment surgery, and that is even in Sweden, which is among the most LGBTQ-affirming countries. Madam Speaker, the American College of Pediatricians states that, quote, conditioning children into believing a lifetime of chemical and surgical impersonation is normal and healthful is child abuse, end of quote. They continue, quote, endorsing gender discordance as normal via public education and legal policies will confuse children and parents, leading more children to present to gender clinics where they will be given puberty-blocking drugs. This, in turn, virtually ensures they will choose a lifetime of carcinogenic, and otherwise toxic cross-sex hormones and likely consider unnecessary surgical mutilation of their healthy body parts as young adults, end quote. Research reported by the American Psychiatric Association in Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, clearly shows the large majority of boys and girls who experience gender dysphoria will not experience the persistence of these feelings following adolescence. I also urge my colleagues to listen to Dr. Ken Zucker, professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Psychology at the University of Toronto, and Dr. Susan Bradley, psychiatrist-in-chief at the Hospital for Sick Children, head of the Division of Child Psychiatry, and professor emeritus at the University of Toronto. They state, quote, "It has been our experience that a sizable number of children and families achieve a great deal of change. In these cases, the gender identity disorder resolves fully, and nothing in the children's behavior or fantasies suggests that gender identity issues become problematic," end quote. So, Madam Speaker, in light of the input from these groups and experts in psychiatry and psychology, at the very least, it is important that government does not legislate ideological conformity on this issue. We need to take a stand for good public policy as it relates to gender and sexuality, and to base our decisions on scientific research that will help protect against devastating, lifelong negative consequences. Another major concern for me in Bill 16 is the issue that terms gender identity and gender expression are very subjective terms, far too subjective to be used in the context of legal documents. Will policies protecting people on the grounds of gender identity and expression merely provide safety and protection, that is, provide a shield against abuse, or will they be used to drive a broader agenda? As legislators, we are simply trying to protect the sexual minority from verbal and physical abuse, or are we also intending to impose a cultural shift in our very understanding of human sexuality and gender expression? What will the impact be on immigrant groups and faith groups, the majority of which are at odds with gender fluidity concepts? Will they have the freedom to teach their children and practice their beliefs without being accused of hate speech or being accused of a human rights violation? For myself and millions of other Canadians who acknowledge the supremacy of God, as the first words of our charter affirm, there is the reality that our faith journey is the foundation of our worldview. If freedom of religion is to be embraced, then it is of paramount importance that C-16 does not infringe upon that fundamental freedom. It's important that government clarify the nature of the protection being afforded and how they expect terms such as gender identity and gender expression to be interpreted. The implications are too unpredictable. Far too much is left to interpretation that would result in unnecessary accusation of human rights violations, as well as litigation and endless court cases to further tie up our court system. Another concern is the potential harm to innocent children. As I stated earlier, Madam Speaker, I am in total support of equal rights. So the question needs to be asked, where are the equal rights? Is it equal rights to have the rights of the boy or girl or the young man or woman who expects to find only those of their same gender in their change room? Is it fair to have their rights trampled upon by this imposition of extra rights for some? Common sense dictates that the potential for abuse of this new freedom to self-identify with a change room of one's own choice could very well lead to bullying, harassment, and even sexualized violence in these public spaces. One of the pitfalls of C-16 is its failure to recognize the potential that heterosexual predators who, while not transgendered themselves, will take advantage of the protection of this bill to hide behind their predatory pursuits. Yes, I am concerned for the safety and well-being of young children and youth who deserve their right to privacy. Finally, Madam Speaker, I am concerned about the fear this bill may cause for many Canadians. Fear they will not be able to even discuss public policy issues such as this one, on which they may disagree with the government agenda. Any law that limits legitimate discussion and debate of closely held beliefs presents a danger to freedom of expression, a fundamental value held dear by people across the political spectrum. The right to disagree must be viewed as sacred in our society. It is the lifeblood of both new ideas and age-old protections. I am simply asking that those who support this bill respect my right and the rights of millions of Canadians not to be charged with human rights violations because we make our views known, or because we disagree with you. We can and must respect each other, even in spite of holding opposing views. It is my hope that we can openly disagree without labeling each other. Thank you, Madam Speaker.